What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I also host the only online broadcast in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative. And what do? They do spotlighting of Blacks in the diaspora that are doing all things in food, wine, and travel. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we are broadcasting live on June 12th. Still a little bit light out here in Toronto. Next few weeks before summer comes, the longest days of the year, so we're enjoying it. And Saturday night, we did it last Sunday, but we're back to our normal time. We've got our two outstanding ladies, Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. We're gonna bring them here. Hey, ladies, what's going on?
Hello.
It's going.
Hey. It's going. What
It's going.
What direction?
Exactly. Good question.
How's the week been?
Exhausting. I was really busy this week. So, and then trying to consume all of the other, craziness that was going on. So yeah, it was a lot this week for me personally. Yeah. I'm tired today.
Yeah, so. I'm exhausted too. I think, but part of it's the heat, this heat wave that finally just kind of tapered off like today. And, but other than that, just, paying attention to the news and kind of, it's been a lot emotional couple of weeks for me. So, today I just kind of was like, I'm just chilling.
Did you have a heat wave in Toronto?
Pardon me? Yeah, we've had the heat. Yeah, we had the heat and humidity but the last few days have been perfect. About 75, 80 degrees, no humidity. No humidity. It's just nice. Absolutely beautiful. So I get up in the morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning and just go on my veranda and just put my feet out and just relax and enjoy the quietness and the nice cool breeze in the morning. So it's very nice. So it's been nice, but I think we're supposed to get a little bit more humidity tomorrow, but it's a nice break. It's an okay break we've had.
I mean, it's hot here on the West Coast. We don't have the humidity, but surprisingly we do have more humidity than we normally do.
Yeah,
but you don't get any rain though in the West, I hear.
No, so you just feel like you're wilting when you go out. I looked at my plants in the garden and they're just like all wilted today. I have to water them tonight. But it's just hot here. It's just super, super hot, and we're in the middle of a drought again.
Yeah, and see this heat wave with the humidity was just such that I mean we had a downpour of rain one evening for like an hour. That's it, just an hour, just a downpour.
How nice.
That cooled off the humidity, and then like what was it? Friday and today, it's been really nice. I finally had my coffee on my balcony yesterday.
Oh, you guys out on your verandas. Look at you.
Well, we got to have some sort of California lifestyle.
Yeah.
After a week of not having it, I was in desperate need of sitting outside on my balcony with my coffee, watching the cars go by.
Jill, I know you love your tennis. Did you get a chance to watch Nadal and
Djokovic?
Yes.
It was probably the best match. It'll rank up there as one of the all-time great matches of all-time history. It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Well, I saw bits and pieces, and I heard Joker talking about saying it's one of the great. I'm going, okay, is he just hyping it because he won?
No, it was intense from the start. It was an amazing match and intense. I mean, they're both such great players, and so when you see that kind of competition or that level of competence, I mean, at that point, whoever you wanted to win, neither was really a loser in many ways, because it was just the most insane tennis playing I think I've ever seen. Just haven't seen that level constantly. to see that their brain, how their minds and the physicality, as well as just the mental agility that it takes to do this, to do anything that you want badly. Incredible.
I always, with peak athletes, I'd love to just sit down and say, what is going on in your head? Like, you know, people think about the end result, but the thought process, what you're going through the plan, especially with those two, they play at such high intention because it's a true rivalry.
Totally. I mean, and it's so funny how they each, you know, how they were in the tournament positioned, and then they ended up hitting up with each other. And it's just these guys, like, you know, even having Federer playing, even though he may not be winning like he did, there's still something so great about their tennis playing that I actually do feel it's made the younger players even push their game and be better and more consistent. And one other really thing, their behavior, especially with Federer and Nadal, they sort of have maintained that professionalism that stays with the game. And that is something that I think young people need to see because it carries it forward. You know, the one match I'm waiting on one day is to see Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka. I want to see Coco Gauff because I think that little girl is going to be, you know, that one, she's got it. I just need her to, because she's still a little baby, but she's going to do it one day. And that's going to be a hell of a game.
Well, people didn't come to watch and talk about tennis tonight. So let's go, because they don't know you for the tennis thing yet. But let's move on to our first conversation piece tonight. Biden's attorney general defends controversial Justice Department arguments related to 45. Why is Merrick Garland doing this?
Well, this is the aggravating part, is that they're saying that these are continuing, they're continuations of previous investigations that were already underway. But he also has the option of not picking up those investigations, and or even the option of deciding not to defend him. So one instance here is the rape case, having the DOJ defend Donald Trump as a rape case in this rape case against what's her name?
Carol.
Yeah, Carol. One of the things for me about that particular case is that we complained when Donald Trump acted as if the DOJ was his personal lawyer. The DOJ was his personal attorney, you know, lawyering firm, and now they're going to act like it. Mm-hmm. And that I have a big problem with that. And some of these other things, and like I'm wondering, are they going to be defending him against Eric Swalwell's case that Eric Swalwell's bringing against Trump for the insurrection? Because that again was when Trump was in office, and their claim of the defense is that, well, you know, he was president at the time, so he gets the full, you know, service of the DOJ. But that shouldn't be, because regular American people don't get that. And he is a citizen. And the things that he did do were above and beyond his duties as president. They went too far. We shouldn't have to pay for it.
No.
Jill, your thoughts?
Well, I have a few. I think that it's bullshit, what they're doing. And I know that they gave this sort of, you know, the media has been trying to run around with it and go, what the heck is going on? Why is he doing this? And the comeback line was, oh, he's trying to defend the position of the president, so that later on down the line, well, hopefully down the line, this will put everybody in check, that they're not above the law just because they become president. And it's really another gut punch to people who spent a lot of money that they didn't have during a pandemic and got out there and voted for these people. And then were calling or volunteering. It's another gut punch, equally as horrendous as what we got from the Mueller report. And I don't know what it is that happens when they hit that office at the DOJ or whatever is going on, but they need to cut it out, because Merrick Garland, he would be setting a precedent, actually, in defending the president like this, especially particularly on a rape case. You see, he's supposed to work for the people of America, not Donald Trump. And I think he forgot too, and somebody needs to knock a couple times on his head to see if anybody's home, because he should have just said, none our business. That's not our business. Mm-hmm. That's Trump's business. Bye. That's what that was about. And he should have stayed out of it. And to be so concerned about, the office of the president is dead. It's dead game now. I mean, what are you trying to, it's dead. It's done. Joe Biden's doing his best step and fetch it routine out there right now. He's totally on vaudeville. He's on the Chitlin circuit on the G7, trying to bring it back and get it back together and get the band back together. But I'll tell you what, just because everybody looks like they're having a good time doesn't necessarily mean all is what they think it is. There's still a lot of work that America has to do and must do. And to see the DOJ falling like this is totally the polarity in opposition to everything that Joe Biden is trying to do, and the Democrats. And I get that Merrick Garland, his biases are showing, and he needs to stay out of it. It's none of his business, frankly. And I hope we've made that point very clear to him, and they figure out how to fire somebody, make them the scapegoat of this, and then we all back off of that whole thing about defending, because they're defending a rape lawsuit, because this isn't the only rape case that Donald Trump has. There's when he raped a 13-year-old girl. You're going to defend that too in our name? Merrick Garland needs his head examined if he thinks that going through with this. And first of all, I thought he would be a little more swift. It's like, I would have cleaned house as soon as I came in anyway. I mean, what kind of stupid man sits up there and acts like, really, what a stupid human being too. He's another one. And if we're going to be looking for him to do anything, because all he's doing is letting the black woman do all the dirty work, which is Letitia James. And he's hoping that she's going to come and bring Trump down. And we have the most ballless white men sitting up there in these positions. They have no balls. And the only thing they admired were Trump's balls, because let's face it, he did have some, whatever they're made out of, but he did have them. At least he that was one thing. And now we know why they looked up to him so much, because they don't have any. They're like freaking eunuchs. And it's just out of this, it's not acceptable what they're doing. And I truly believe that we need to protest about that. And I believe people are pushing, but, it's wrong. He will be setting a precedence that the president is above the law, and that's not cool. And that little, spin that they got going on, nah, it's not true. His ass should have been like, I'm not going to deal with this right now. And he should have been more concerned about voters' rights from the get-go.
Yeah. And again, the thing of it is that he doesn't have
what a disappointment.
He doesn't have to take these things up. He's making the choice. No, he doesn't.
To. He's making the choice
to. And there are people that are still employed by the Justice Department that were there during the Trump era that were doing these investigations. Fire them.
Yeah.
Fire them or move them. But the problem is that a lot of them are career people who have been there so long that they don't know how not to do the thing that they're told not to do. So I think that this is going to be a colossal mistake that Merrick Garland is him going down this road, because it doesn't bode well for anyone, for him to be pursuing a case in defense of Donald Trump, particularly the cases that he's pursuing. Particularly the cases that he's pursuing. The rape case is abominable. That's abominable defending him. Usually the state, the government acts as the prosecutorial arm of a rape case, not the defensive arm.
Right.
Okay, just before you go, let me just interrupt here. Rio Django is saying, one of the many problems I see is the new AG didn't clean house when he got there. So mostly all the same people who were in the DOJ's key positions are still there. And he says, and some of those clowns are still there. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, because they are still there. And the biggest problem for me and for many people is the fact that, you know, I have a friend who worked in the White House at one point and had once talked to me about when you're working there, it's like information hits you all day long. And it takes a minute to get your steed, like your stride. You got emails coming at you, you have things coming all the time. And so imagine in your corporate office times 100. And that's why nothing ever gets done, because it takes people a good minute to figure out the pace of what things are moving at. And unfortunately, they move things off and push them aside like we would do if we're working for a regular corporation. And it's really terrible because it's sort of like, but Merrick Garland should be ahead of that game. He should have fired people. But it's like, I'm wondering, was he in a freezer for the last 4 years and they just took him out and thawed him out to see? And he's like going, well, I thought everybody was, okay or good. How in the hell? That's not a discerning mind. It's not even anybody that I would find, who would have my back, because they don't think about anticipate anything. He doesn't anticipate shit. I mean, that's the very telling thing about Merrick Garland, is how what a traditionalist he is. We know that for the past couple of months, he's had Bill Barr visiting him in his ear, and then he comes back with this. So it's like, go screw yourself, Merrick. You really disappointed us. And it just seems like, is he in cahoots too? Because
remember, Merrick's not.
I'm a little concerned. No, he's not. But that whole party thing, that intravenous party thing, is not helping. No, and if I'm not mistaken, then they need to he needs to resign, because that was trending the other day. Resign. We don't need to give these people any more excuses. No. They're career politicians, The
team of rivals idea worked for Barack Obama in 2008. Now we're dealing with a different kind of Republican Party.
Right.
The team of rivals does not work now. And to have someone who's not going to be about getting on with the business of the country in that kind of office is not a good thing. Merrick Garland right now is not doing anything but embarrassing himself, really.
Yeah, he did. He really played. He showed his ass, I'll tell you. And everybody showed theirs right back at him.
I would have never. And here's a gentleman that many Democrats wanted to be put on the Supreme Court.
On the Supreme Court, he might have been different, because remember, there he's just making decisions, rulings. Yeah. Right now, he's conducting investigation.
And he may not be that guy.
Right. And the people that he's putting in charge of investigations are people who were there during the last administration and were doing the last administration's bidding. So that's the challenge with where he is now. And true enough, at the time, it was a good pick, just because they weren't going to. Remember, we didn't have the majority at the time to get the picks across, but now it's different. If Biden keeps him there longer than 2 years, longer than Jeff Sessions was there, I think it's going to hurt him in 2024.
Yeah, he really needs to step it up. Another educated fool from Harvard. Another one. It's like it's actually very, very, and it's disappointing. And he needs to start throwing people out and getting rid of them, turning off their computers. I don't care if they sit there all damn day with nothing to do. That's one way to get rid of people. I've known corporations that have done that to people. They don't give them access to anything. And they just let them sit there all day. And then they leave. They come in and then they leave. And that's what they need to do with those people. Turn off their stuff. Don't give them access to the files that they had before while they're all being investigated. And then at 6 o'clock, they can go home. And that's what I would do.
Who investigates the FBI? That then becomes a question, because one of the things we're going to have is we're going to get to talking about this later, but then you're going to have this thing where every case that comes out of the Department of Justice is then going to have an independent investigator come in and go through every case, because the Attorney General isn't doing their job.
No, or doesn't know how to.
Right.
So then what do you feel Biden should do with Merrick Garland?
Well, but that's the thing. His hands are kind of tied, right?
Yeah.
Because he said as a campaign promise, he was not going to get in the way of the DOJ in doing their investigations. So right now, he really can't say or do anything except for wait like a year and a half, and then put in someone and have a talk with him about putting someone else in the AG space.
But he could also start maneuvering it with his internal people to start raising their concerns or saying things that bother them, and create a very unstable situation for Merrick Garland. It doesn't have to come from Joe directly, but it could come from Kamala. It could come from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, he should have made Kamala the AG. She should have been the AG. And she would have swept the floor, because, it's like they're doing everything in their power to look like, well, I wasn't really biased when I came here. It's like, this is not that kind of a situation anymore. You saw people go to the Capitol. I mean, I'm going to play nice. It doesn't work.
And no, the Attorney General does not have to be an attorney.
Exactly.
The Constitution does not say that.
Yeah, right.
So he could have even easily put Val Demings in that spot.
Totally.
Someone with a law enforcement background.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, Trump had that guy for like 5 minutes that wasn't even an attorney in that spot, the bald-headed guy. Remember him?
There have been so many.
Remember, he was AG just before Bill Barr. The guy, I can't remember his name, but he was like this musclehead looking guy that was bald, and he just got him off Fox News and made him Attorney General for like 5 minutes.
Craziness.
The guy couldn't get clearance, which is why they had to force him out.
Yes, I remember that. I remember
him.
Oh boy!
But that's my problem with them. And he better step it up. That's all I can say.
Yeah, he's going to have to, because we're going to get to the other topic with Merrick Garland. He's got too much going on now in there to not be on point.
Exactly.
And Real Django goes, Val.
Yeah, love Val. Love her.
That's something else we forgot to add to our list of things to talk about today. Remember,
she's running
for Senate.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, she announced this week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll have to circle back with that next week. Well, that's fantastic. Want to say hello to everyone who's watching live or on the replay or listening to the replay. Staggers State of Things with special guest Jill Jones, June 12th edition. And next up, we're going to chat about the G7. They're meeting in Cornwall, England to rally democratic spirits and discuss COVID, vaccines, and taxes. So what do you think? What do you think Biden can get out of this meeting, if anything?
Man, first of all, guys, did you notice how beautiful the water is in Cornwall and how gorgeous? Because it is very pretty there. I mean, it just had a serene setting, perfect place for this. It was a watershed moment for me.
It really was. Not only that, but it was like Biden had one job. And it was to go there and say, look, America is getting back to its senses as long as there are competent people in office. Might not be the best people, but we're the competent people back in the room, and we've got our issues, but we've got competent leadership. We've got leadership that's not going to go against the Constitution. We've got leadership that's going to value our allies and value our partnerships across the world, and leadership that isn't, it's not beholden to just one person and doesn't shrink the country down to just one person and the likes and wins of one person. We have a leader who wants to help with a global problem and sees COVID as not just a country problem, but a global problem. And that's this whole sharing and giving of vaccines. And we're able to do that because we are doing so well with our vaccinations compared to what we would have been had Trump still been in charge of this rollout thing.
Sure.
What we pay into the G7, Biden also understands that what we pay into the G7 is something we agreed to, because the larger your economy, the more you pay into it.
Right.
And so I think his main job was to go and to, reassert calm among the allies that, look, here we are, we're back, we're part of this union, and I'm going to go meet with Putin and tell him, we will not do your bidding anymore. We are not your country. You do not own us the way you thought you did.
Well, Putin's had his hand in a lot of different places. I mean, when they asked Joe Biden, he basically said that Putin is a killer, and everybody got all crazy about it. And but Boris Johnson kind of co-signed on that as well. He said, yeah, because he mentioned the polonium that was found in England, and they had one of the deaths, and then we're from the polonium with that father and daughter. And then because all Putin was doing then was flexing his muscle to show that no place was out of reach for him. And I think that if anything that they're trying to do is to, consolidate a little bit here to get together to stop whatever intentions, Putin has had. But the craziest part of all is that we have some people in this country, even like there was a whole Twitter thread this morning where I was reading everybody talking about World War II. And they were saying that, Russia really won the war in World War II. And all these people are like, yeah, because America always is screwing somebody over and always doing this. And they came in and took all the glory. Well, here's the deal. Russia had an issue. Yeah, they lost a lot of men, that's for sure. But if, like I said to them, these people are like traitors. This is wartime. War is a very funny thing anyway. When people, how your allegiances go and your allies and all of that. We saw that even with Finland and Germany and Russia. Go figure, right? We've seen that. Meanwhile, let's not even talk about what we did to the Kurds under Donald Trump's bullshit. But the craziest thing of all is if I'm asked to go and do a job to clean up somebody else's mess or to come in and facilitate and I clean it up, I want the acclaim for it. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And that's what America did in the war. We also had some amazing allies. And the simplistic nature that this country, the people in America have been tuned and radicalized by Russia is crazy, guys. It is crazy to go on these sites and to see these people loving Putin's ass. It's horrifying. It's like they know his behavior. They know what he's doing to Alexander Navalny. It's just, they are willing to throw our own veterans under the bus and then have the audacity to get mad when we don't talk about D-Day on June 6th. But then a couple of weeks later, they're glorifying Putin. These people are so effed up. I mean, they don't know whether they're coming or going. We have a huge, huge problem. So that's the one thing looming over our president right now, his back, is that everybody in Europe thinks that they don't know, because it's not that they don't trust his words. They don't trust the citizens of America. People don't trust us. They think we're crazy as all get out. There's many countries that want to do different things with visas because they just don't want us to come to their countries. It's been discussed. There's articles about it. They don't want it. And I don't blame them. And they need a criteria for people to be able to fly to France or to go wherever. It's not worth it. There are some dumbass people here.
But the funny thing is that those people wouldn't even want to leave this country to begin with. Those are the people who are America first. It's like, the people that you want to say, sometimes you want to just leave the country, find someplace else to go and say, just take it and burn it down.
Yeah, but they're not all poor people. They're rich people who have invested in this thing too. And they just think that they get better perks with their hedge money and all of that whole oligarchy. They want to be oligarchs. They want it more and more and more. They want what the Russian dudes had. They want caviar falling off of the table that it's so much. That's how they want to live. And how do you compete with that? We've got a humble guy as a president going over there with this, America, we're good people. Joe, no, Joe, not everybody is here. You better sit up and drink your coffee. No, they're not. They are ruled by principalities. He's Catholic. He needs to go and have a talk with the Pope. These things that walk around in skin and flesh and pretending whatever they are not human. Maybe they were once, but they're not any longer. They are shells of whatever. You can call me crazy on that note, but they're sick and they're beyond sick. And there's not enough mental health in the world to help them. There's not a therapist out there.
So I have a question. How big of a sales job does Biden need to do over the next year and a half, how long he's left in office? How big of a job does he need to do to get America's credibility back with the G7?
That's all he's going to have to do is just be a salesman, because the sad part about it is that he has to be a salesman, but we as Americans have to be able to back that up.
Yeah.
And that's the challenging part, is when you have 75 million people who voted for a dictator, a wannabe dictator, not, showing that who want to overthrow the government, who tried to overthrow the government.
And may I interrupt just for 1 second to say that, and 2/3 of those 75 million think he's going to be reinstated in August.
In August, right. So, and that you got to remember too. That's the other thing.
I read that story this week, and I went, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah,
really.
And remember, we discussed it last week. But for some reason, it resurfaced in a big way this week because it's gaining traction among that group of people. They finally just decided to pick up a book and read, or a paper and read. And it just, that's the other thing too, is that while Joe Biden is trying to convince our allies that, this is the direction we're going in, you have those people there who, are just saying, they're putting out this propaganda that, Trump's going to be reinstated. And these leaders from these other countries don't know how our Constitution works.
No.
They don't realize that because in their governments there may be those kinds of practices. In ours, there's not. And so he has to convince them that no, this is not going to happen. And their whole thing is going to be wait and see. And you know what the wait and see is? Will there be another insurrection attempt?
Well, exactly. And here's the other interesting point. This is where Joe might just have to go against his campaign thing about the DOJ, because Merrick Garland made him look like an asshole when he went over there, because you are talking to Macron, and France put Sarkozy in jail over his corruption. And you're going to sit up there looking like a mofo talking about that your country's getting strong and whatever. Meanwhile, you're talking to countries that have taken action against their leaders, all because you're too prideful to admit that we had one huge major F up called Donald Trump. This whole thing is to pretend that Donald Trump wasn't that bad, because they don't want that to go down legitimately in the history books, that he was that diabolical. He was our Hitler. He really was. So here it is, folks. That is it. And that's what this could be about as well. But you're going to talk to Macron, and he just got slapped the other day by one of his citizens. And he also knows they had Sarkozy sitting at home with an ankle monitor on where he can't go anywhere. That's how they took care of it swiftly. The justice was swift, but not America. Yeah. It wants to creep along until people don't remember it, or it's a blur, or they've changed the whole meaning. And that's the worst thing about our freedom of speech and our justice system, because if this is what's going on, you can bet you're behind that everything else in the court systems are absolutely rife with corruption. Go try to pay for one of your transcripts from a trial, and they let the transcriptionist name the price. It could be anywhere from $3 a page versus $12 a page. Yeah. This is what we have. Oh, you know, and everybody's just gone freaking cowboy on Wild West. It's there's no, the only people that get penalized for anything are Black people, Hispanic people, and maybe a couple poor people, white people. That's it. But there's no penalties. Where are they? They constantly consume you. White collar crime, they get to sit home. The fact that Derek Chauvin's stupid lawyer has the audacity to ask for a case to be dismissed, feeling that he already served his time, says everything that's wrong in this country. There is this is why. I mean, you can look at these people and go, oh, it's a mess, guys. It's a real mess.
And one of the things that Biden has to do is, because remember, compared to these countries that he's working with, America's considered the older democracy, right? Considered the older democracy. So all these countries are looking at this country and how a democracy can be so fragile. It's not like what happened on January 6th happened without cameras, without social media.
Exactly.
You know, in the silo. It happened and the world saw it as it was happening.
Right.
And so the world saw a group of people try to take out a democracy. And they worry that can happen in their own countries as well if they rely too heavily on a democratic republic.
Right.
And that's something that he has to try to convince them that this experiment can work. The problem is that when you have bad actors in bad faith who do bad acts because they don't care about the people in general, they just care about themselves. Well, then you don't have a democracy anymore. And that's why we had to get him out through an election.
And he needs to start appointing judges just for the hell of it. He just needs to start littering them everywhere, because that's what Trump did. Because now, as opposed to how everything was going from the top down to the bottom, we're seeing it come from the bottom to the top. All the corruption, you can't even get it to the top because it gets thwarted somewhere along in the swamp of Donald Trump's minutia. Every agency we have is corrupt. There's nothing that's a healthy sector in this country. Not one. You'll go in and you will find.
Do it. He's got the opportunity to do it because a lot of those Trump judges are stepping down.
And they need to make them step down harder.
No, but they're not even, remember, a lot of them are stepping down on their own, which is really bizarre. It makes you wonder, what do they have to hide?
Well, they need to keep notes and follow back up.
Real Dango says, while 45 was in office, he has many underhanded things as possible. It's all coming out and he has to pay for it. The question is, will he pay for it? He's Teflon Don. He's Teflon.
But guess what? Even Teflon can scratch.
Okay.
But if I were to evaluate it from today and what's been going on, I would say no, he won't. They'll try to ride it out until the dude croaks in a freaking bathtub or in a sauna or, raping another child. That's what they would do. He all but probably killed Epstein. I mean, what hasn't he done? I mean, Khashoggi, does he get no justice? Can anybody go and find out who leaked the information for, come on. Are you kidding? Mm-hmm. Is that why? Was that done in favor of us turning over the Kurds? Was that the exchange there? Because it looks like that's what it was. It looks like if we give you the Kurds, you give him the Khashoggi. That's what that looked like to me.
His children and associates are going to pay first before he will. And I think the first of his children to go down will be Don Jr. because he's the most vulnerable and he did the most egregious, blatant acts that people can say, okay, this we can get you on this with the Trump Foundation.
Yeah.
Tisha James can go after him first. I mean, he will.
He's the most fragile, actually, of them. He's the most fragile because you can see he's like on his way checking out of here anyway on something. Yeah. Either it be with his drug abuse or whatever is happening. It's actually happening right before our eyes. He's the weakest son.
And also if Biden's smart in 2022, I'll just say he'll appoint Tish James as Attorney General in place of Merrick Garland.
Yeah, I agree. That would work too. Get rid of old fancy pants Merrick Garland because because actually I feel and always did maybe think that he was a little like sour milk. It's like, okay, this is 10 years long, and now we're putting him in and he seemed a lot more doddering when he came back, like, yeah, well, like voice had changed. Something was different with Merrick Garland when he came back from when Obama wanted to put him in. And I'm not quite sure what it was, but yeah, sour milk left too long out on the stoop, child.
Yeah. But the G7, I think Joe Biden's going to have to, he has his goal going in had to be a salesman.
And he's a good salesman. That's true.
And he is.
He is.
Be a salesman. Assure our allies that we are with them. Mm-hmm. We're not with Russia. Make it very plain to Putin that this is not Donald Trump's America anymore.
But the only thing that would do that is putting Donald Trump in chains.
Right.
It would be the only thing that really solidifies everybody going, okay, they mean business, because right now they know what Joe Biden wants to do. But if I were a leader of another country, I think he could always have the potential of somebody thwarting him or cutting off his legs. Like he can't even get a bill passed, because Mitch McConnell did that thing in the Senate where it all of a sudden had to be 60 votes. Can't Biden change it? I mean, can't he just go back and change it to the way it was before? I mean, what are we doing? Well, then there's just got to be something else that they can change with executive order. And I don't really care about the bipartisan stuff, but the only thing that will make anybody else believe that this country means business is to see Donald Trump put in chains.
And that's what he's getting in private.
He needs to do it.
In private conversations. I'm sure that's what he's getting, is being told, look, we want to trust your word, but as long as Donald Trump is running free, and has the possibility of people saying that he could become president again, in August, we don't know what to trust, because we actually got to sit and work with Donald Trump for 4 years, and this is what we saw and we didn't like.
Right now, it's kind of like we're dating a married man, and he keeps saying he's going to divorce his wife, and until the papers were served and signed, then you don't believe anything. That's the way I feel. And so Donald Trump is still Joe Biden's married ex-wife. They're separated, but she ain't gone yet.
Right. Right. And the thing of it is too, is that you gotta remember, Donald Trump's doing something that no other American president has done to another American president, was to keep talking while that person is in office. Shut up.
I know.
It's like, just shut up. But Barack Obama would have been well within his rights to speak constantly while Donald Trump was president.
Totally.
And said, no, I'm going to let him be president. You let a president be a president.
Yep.
But Donald Trump cannot do that because because of two things. One, the fear of not being in office when all this stuff comes down, all these investigations comes down, scares him to death. Two, he got that little taste of power that was the highest power that you could have in this country. And he doesn't know how to let it go, because even if there were no criminal cases against him, he would still be trying to find a way to run endless terms as president.
Isn't he like crashing people's weddings and memorials and stuff at Mar-a-Lago? Like just walking in, talking?
Yes.
I mean,
talk about how he was wronged. I'd be so pissed if that was my wedding. First of all, I wouldn't have a wedding at Mar-a-Lago.
They deserve it for going there personally. You know,
It's like, wait, this is my day, and we're talking about you? Exactly. But, and who invited you? I mean, I paid for the spot. That means I paid for your ass not to be here.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's go to our next conversation piece. There we go. Justice Department Congress probing 45 seizures of Democratic data.
See, this Trump is doing what people thought he was doing. And it's coming out. And let me tell you, we're only getting just 100 of what he did really doing. That's all we're going to get, because the fact that and this is what's so funny. The whole time in 2017, 2018, he's whining that the Barack Obama administration had been spying on his campaign. He was spying on Adam Schiff, his family, his children, Eric Swalwell, and on who else was it?
God knows who else.
Oh yeah, not to mention the media people that he did not like.
The journalists.
The journalists. He was spying on people.
Right.
It's like, again, projection with this man.
He was a dictator. Let's just say it. He was. It wasn't being called that, but he was. If you're spying and you're doing that stuff, and it's so funny, everything he accused other people of, we now know he did it. So just go back and reverse everything he ever said in a speech and put I in front of it.
45, caught red-handed.
Totally. He tells on himself. He can't help it because he's so proud of it. That's the thing. He's bursting at the seams to tell us. And you know what I really did? That's what's so interesting.
He's like a person that gets a little piece of gossip and they can't hold it.
Absolutely.
Like they'll tell the first person that they see on the street, like, oh, you might not know this. I just got to get this out. Yeah,
it's so true. He always tells on himself. So he creates these alter egos and these narratives to get the story out. That's how he does it. And that's why he's ahead of the game all the time, because everyone's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because he's actually telling them what he's doing, which made me think that everybody who got blocked by him or everybody that had a run-in with him better wonder if their names weren't on some kind of ultimate list as well. And they either got audited by the IRS or something went down in their lives, and they need to put the pieces together and go, did that bitch block me? And did he do this? Because I really believe he's that type. And I think it was an order. Anybody who speaks against me, bring them some bad misery.
Yep. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I just wouldn't. Because he's so thin-skinned. And that's, just right up the Putin alley. Putin alley.
But he was spying on people's children and then had the nerve,
which is so illegal. It's so illegal.
Barron's name. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Nobody want to talk about his stupid son, the one that the teachers, if I must say, people were happy when he left the school, apparently in New York, according to a few moms that I know. They said he was a brat.
They're happy.
Horrible. Yeah. Happy when they finally left New York and went down to wherever the hell she had to take that boy to school. I heard that from a few moms in New York from the school who had kids in the same school.
But this probing of the data, it's just, you know, they're getting their phone records and, you know, text message records, and just such a violation of people's privacy.
And that's the crazy thing of all. If Merrick Garland could put 2 and 2 together, can he tie his shoes? Because I would be sitting here like going, huh. If they did that, if they were doing that, they're still working here. Are they calling him and giving him information? Right.
That's the other part, is that the people who were doing
really, Merrick Garland, how stupid are you? These people have no common street sense. That's what it is. They're so educated. They go to the Ivy Leagues, but they ain't got no street sense. You know, these are people who stand in a parking lot and don't know where to put the ticket or get the ticket or whatever. Or you send them to the grocery store and they don't know how anything works.
You're relying on these people to be nonpartisan because they're career people, they're career investigators. But the truth of the matter is that you got to remember that with like all of Trump's stuff, propaganda is propaganda. And after a while, people start to believe propaganda as true when it is, in fact, just an overly animated lie. And they're going to be seeing all this stuff and getting the direction that they were getting, now getting opposite direction to do a counter investigation. You can't put the counter investigation in the hands of the same people who did the initial investigation. That makes no sense.
I know, but that's what gets me about Merrick Garland. It's like, hello.
Are you asleep on the job?
Yeah. It's like a Monty Python sketch. It's like, what the hell? It's like, that would be the first thing I would think. I got to get rid of everybody because I'm not sure who is loyal to Donald Trump. It's a sad scenario. But I think I would even have to get rid of the cooks, the housekeepers, the cleaners. I just would have to. It wouldn't be anything personal. It would be like, you got to go, because that's how you cut it off. But they've left viable arteries for information to still get to him and for damage to continuously be done.
Because there's a leak somewhere in the Justice Department and they have not found that leak.
Then that's what I said. Monday morning, computers off. We're having a staff meeting.
Yeah.
And we're going to go one by one with you bitches.
Yeah. Because there is a leak somewhere in the Justice Department.
Absolutely, there is.
Donald Trump, he knows too much. Mm-hmm. He's saying too much. And he knows too much for there not to be a leak somewhere or some little bit of information getting out to him.
And now we know that the main intention behind getting this information about people's lives and spying on them, what could that be about? Bribing them, extorting them, threatening them. This is how we saw 180-degree turns with people that you go, what the hell happened to them? And they're like, I think Donald Trump is God. He's the Messiah. Yeah. I mean, sitting here like,
what turned Lindsey Graham? We could not figure it out. What turned Lindsey Graham? Because we like, it couldn't have been the rumors about him being gay, because please, that's obvious. It had to be something else, and it had to be something within his phone calls or in something.
It's because he turned, and he's still turning. Yeah. He's like a topsy-turvy top. He's never going to stop. I don't know what they did. I don't know what they said, but dude is like always walking with an invisible gun to his head.
Yeah.
Every time he's on, I always think there's something like right there.
Whatever they got on him, whatever data they got on him was bad. And they got it the same way that they got the
I think it's I don't even know if it's about getting as much as it's a threat.
Yeah.
I think there are actual threats. And I think that some of these deaths were not, I think even Khashoggi's thing was a message for a lot of people. And I think
in the media.
For the people in the media, but also the Congress people who know the inside of it are probably like going, yo, if that's what how this went down, then because if you're going to be looking at somebody's minor or their child what could you possibly either be wanting to do? Kidnap them, kill them. Look at the judge who was trying to deal with Deutsche Bank.
Right.
These things, they got hot and heated, even more aggressive about how wonderful Donald Trump was after that assassination attempt on the judge. They certainly did. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
They killed her son.
Yeah.
You know, these people aren't messing around. And we've had very many weird people falling out of buildings and stuff and all this kind of craziness in New York City on our property.
Deutsche Bank hasn't tried to pull rank on Trump since.
No.
Or give out any more information.
No, they haven't.
Or been asked to give out any more information.
No, I mean, it's like I would say that, like I said, Merrick Garland was an idiot because for me, just like we had to sift through the Secret Service guys and come find out there were a ton of them in the Capitol who were involved in insurrection. Mm-hmm. Whoa, we got some serious problems here because it's everywhere. But I would have had to let the cook go, everybody go. Or, you know, or maybe I would have talked to the cook and say, tell me what you know.
Right.
Because I just really feel there's some bad stuff going on. And I think people's lives have been threatened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True. Wow. Ladies, you are on fire again tonight. So let's move it on forward. Ms. Harris is taking a lot of heat from different people, from Republicans, from Democrats. What do you ladies think about the rocky road that's been put on Ms. Harris?
That it's more so been put on her than anything. I don't think that she's done anything thus far to deserve what she gets on either side of it. Like the whole thing with AOC this week was really about Kamala telling people from Guatemala not to come to the country. But that's not the total of what she said. I listened to what she said. She said, don't come here. Help is on the way. Mm-hmm. We're going to see what the root causes are there and what we can help there so that you don't have to leave your homes.
And make that dangerous trek.
Right.
She really spoke about the dangerous trek.
And so we can make it better for you. And she also made it clear. She said, we can't accommodate you and get you into the courts fast enough to get you the asylum that you need. We don't want you having to stay in these camps for X number of years. She was very clear with that. AOC tried to make her words seem like they were coming from Donald Trump. When Donald Trump said, don't come here, he didn't want brown people in this country. That's the bottom line of it. It wasn't that he was worried about the trip. He was worried about them having to stay in the camps for so long, or he was worried about them not being able to get through the court system. He didn't want them in the country, period.
Right. That's true.
Because the country there would be a demographic shift. And that's something that his followers, and Republicans in general just don't want. That was part of what this insurrection was about. You had these people who are like, America is changing. We don't want our America to change. So I think that was unwarranted, and then what you then see is that the Republicans they see that little rift and they jump on it. So then they jump on there like, oh, Kamala Harris said don't come to. But wait a second. Your guy said don't come. But your guy meant it in a very malicious way. She came and she was very clear about we're going to offer help where you are. She didn't say you're on your own. Don't come. You're on your own. She said, don't come. It's a difficult journey. Help is on the way.
Why has her road been rocky? Is it mostly inexperience, you feel?
I think it's mostly in people's heads. I think the truth is that the vice presidency traditionally has been a role where the person in it they weren't as effective. 1, 2, they didn't have much to do.
Visibility.
And we have someone who's a first here, first person of color as a vice president, first woman vice president. So her visibility is automatically going to be high anyway. But the fact that Joe Biden trusts her with so much, told her, here, you're going to take on immigration. Here, you're going to take on this project. You're going to take on this project. That he's actually trusting her to do some of the work doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but especially because she is a person of color and she is a woman. People don't think that either of those two have a right to be in that office or have the capability to do it and do it well.
They're also terrified that if anything happened to him, she would become president.
Yes.
And that is something they would die over.
Yeah.
We have a problem. I just wish AOC would air her laundry. I would like to see the women be a little bit more, have some more solidarity amongst themselves, because I think that would be refreshing. It would actually do your business behind closed doors about this and, try to, but AOC is planning on taking her shot too for these positions, I'm sure. And I feel that, Kamala is a lot more visible. Hell, even her husband is. I got a Mother's Day email from her husband.
Yeah.
The second husband said Happy Mother's Day. And I thought that was very sweet. But there's something very, she marginalizes, people feel marginalized with her. They feel, and that's by their choice, because she's rather welcoming, but they still want to hold over her job of, being in the justice or being AG out here in Los Angeles. And, she was doing her job. And a lot of that, if you talk to many people, they don't know much about her job. They don't even know much about her career. They only know the sound bites that they've heard, pretty much.
So Jill, earlier on, you had mentioned that you thought she should have been Attorney General, not Vice President. Mm-hmm. Who would, if you had that scenario, who would you have wanted to have as Vice President?
Ooh, who else was running again?
He had, who else was running?
Yeah, against who was in the position who could have done it? I don't know, but I think she knows the law up, backwards, and forwards. And if she doesn't know, she'll find out. And I also think from the Senate, she had so much education on how to catch them. She's dealt with all kinds of thieves and criminals in her whole life. And I just thought, and I think if she's involved in anything, she needs to be working with Merrick Garland on the side. Somebody needs to, because he doesn't anticipate. What I love is that she is a person who worked her way up from very humble beginnings. And people like that are savvy. They're street savvy. Mm-hmm. They know how to make the moves. Yes. And they know how to read people like this. They can operate. It's important. It may not be the one characteristic that you think everybody should have, but in this day and age, you need to know how to operate, navigate, and hustle, and get your hustle on. That's the way it goes. Mm-hmm. I don't know who would have been the better candidate for vice president, but I like what she's doing, but I feel that it doesn't matter what she does. They're just terrified that she will become president. And they're already just going to mar her as much as they can, no matter what she does. I mean, and I know they hold him back, but somebody needs to keep whiplash on these people. These are some really bad people that you can't just, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. You can't. Right. These are not people you ignore anymore. You've got to come straight for them. And I know she has the capacity to do it. It's just maybe not Biden's White House that would really want her to be like, let me tell you one damn thing, and that's the kind of conversation. But I give her credit for being able to deal with this. But AOC was out of order. That's when she shows her immaturity, because it really is neither here nor there. It's like, little girl, why are you taking your shot? You're so much better at other stuff. This is not the place. Because she said, don't make that dangerous trek, because it is a dangerous trek. A lot of them get raped, they get killed, they get trafficked.
Don't pay the coyotes.
That little trip. Don't pay the coyotes. So, what more does she want? It's not easy, and they shouldn't come. We need to figure out how we fix the countries that we undermined and destroyed. Actually, our corporations helped to undermine and destroy, and we need to call them on the carpet to start putting some things in place as well. These countries are in debt to America. Yeah. And with debt, you never know. See, I'm like the kind of person, you never know when you might need them. There might be a bunch of people trekking across when there's no water here one day and trying to get in somewhere, and they'll be like, boo, boo hoo, Yeah.
And then the truth of the matter is that, we have a comment coming up that it'll take decades for that help to get there, but it's going to take decades for that help here anyway. As it
Absolutely.
stands, those people aren't going to see a court date for 10 years.
They won't.
You're going to have people who have been here who won't see a court date for 10 years because they got to line up behind the people who are already in line, who've come here legally, first of all, and who've been here legally for years and have been waiting for their hearings. So it's going to take decades regardless. It's better off that we try and help them where they are.
Yep.
Because there's the capacity for regime change, long-term change, and there's no capacity that this is going to change.
And I just have one thing. The Democrats would get a lot further with immigration if they once and for all tried to fix what's already here as opposed to bringing other people here. No offense. But it's really the truth. There are people living in poverty. They're homeless. Fix that shit first before you start offering people to come up in your house. I'm a Democrat through and through, and I think it's great if people can come here, but try to create a different scenario where the countries we establish either giving them some kind of money or allocating something to have programs, as opposed to everybody coming here, because there are many people who have gotten left out here, and look what happened. People are angry. I was listening to this quote today by one of the guys from Oasis, Noel Gallagher, who said, these people are as angry as people with forks in a world of soup. I mean, it's like Americans are that angry on either side. On both sides. It's beyond that. And it's lovely that you want to have a bunch of people come and everybody, I have seen people fly in. I've talked about it before from these countries. They're flying in, coming in through ATL. They get thrown back out by ICE. They come back over. That's not cool either. We have to take care of some stuff here. I just don't, how are you going to be up in here splitting the bread that many different pieces, because people here don't even have fair wages ourselves. Just don't. You have to fix that first. AOC, I know they're potential voters for you, but that's not how this is done. We have to fix some of the stuff here, and we can't ignore that any longer. And it's not whether if I'm talking about things I think Israel's done, I'm not anti-Semitic, and I'm not anti-immigration on even talking about this. This is just a real fact. You cannot do that. You cannot have people who are destabilized and unstable living here. And then come on over, come on down.
Right.
It's really a big slap in the face. We have Black people barely have any rights, and they're taking them away. And we're going to sit up here and now I've got to give another piece of my rib about this? No,
Black
enough.
Black people in this country who don't have water.
We have, and we have a lot of them who just are now living under the fray, under the guy. They gave up. They just quit.
Yeah, think about that. It's a good point that you made, Joe, because not only that, we also have to think about the fact that we have a segment of the population in this country of working age, able-bodied adults in this country who gave up looking for employment during the pandemic and in the 2 and 3 years before, because the market was so bad for for job growth. The job growth was only in like 2 sectors, technology, and hospitality, right? But it wasn't in any other sector where people who actually had the education, the knowledge, and the skills could get livable job wages. So when you go from, a lot of these people had gotten laid off, and when you go from having a job where you're making X number of dollars and you have a lifestyle around that salary, you can't go to making $7.50 an hour because you're not going to be able to keep up what you already have.
I agree. And I think what the worst part of it is, if AOC wants to fight for anything, fight for trade schools. Bring those back. That we are in a consumer society. Help people learn how to help themselves. Help them to go to school to learn how to be a woodcutter, how to be something. You really want to go there? Because this is who we are as a country. We shop, we spend. That's how they made us the last 30 years. Shop, 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 shop. Get trade schools back. Nobody needs to be going off to a night. How many more freaking lawyers do we need in America? We need honest ones, that's for sure. But since no one can actually decide on if the Constitution says X, Y, or Z, I mean, it's really ridiculous. That's an absurdity.
She needs a hobby. I think her hobby should be, but you know what? Just fight the.
But bring trade schools back, because if anything, people will be fine with the education. You don't really need a college degree if you're going to become a business person all the time. You can take a few courses. You can do. There've been many successful people who have done very, very well. You learn from your experience, but when you let people learn from the experience of poverty, that only leads to one direction. Yeah. I'm going to steal from you, rob from you, kill you to get stuff so I can live, so I can eat. And this is what's happened in all color codes in America. But we need people to learn how to have a trade. Because if you look on Instagram, you see so many people who've taught themselves things, who are doing things, but we need to give people the access to that.
Okay. And we also have to not undervalue our food service people. I'm like, how many rat hairs and spit and all that stuff do you want in your food when you go out to a restaurant? It's like, think about that. You pay people resentful wages. They're going to be resentful and act in resentful ways. Some of this stuff is really disgusting. But you know, like, it's even like with the gig economy. I saw a report this morning on MSNBC where people were talking about how, you know, they drive DoorDash and they do it. And this one guy, they made a video, and he's like, he did a trip that cost him like X number of dollars in gas and mileage, but only got like $1.13 tip.
But this is because no one's done a big forum with people, with these legislators. Because here's the thing, they were making a big deal the other day. Oh, people don't want to work, you know, and I think it's because of unemployment. But here, let me tell you something. People in America, if they fall below a certain margin, they have more access to some of the state benefits of healthcare. So you're talking about people making $17,000 or even $12,000 or whatever they're living on. Now, the interesting thing is, if there's a bunch of them living in a house, they can all take their money and pitch in and pay for the rent. That's fine. However, if each one of them individually goes for a job that's below a minimum for them to live, to travel, to get to the job, to come back home, and it's just enough that throws them over that $17,000 requirement to get health care to you and your family and dental and coverage. Just if you make $21,000, is it worth it? Because then you're paying, these jobs aren't even offering health care anymore. So then the people who are now got a job at Starbucks and they're going to make $21,000 as opposed to $17,000, and they had Medicaid that was free through the, you know, their state. They're going to now pay average $400 or $450 for shitty insurance, that their deductible is going to be incredibly high. They're actually going to go more in the hole than they would have if they just stayed home and laid low. Yeah. These politicians don't understand how this works. And this is why it needs to be made sense to them. Yeah. Because Why the hell would you do that? It's like asking a congressperson to literally go in the hole doing his job. You literally, people go in the hole, and they do those payday loans, and all that stuff came along because it was a bridge to tie them in. They don't want to give that up either. That shit should be completely illegal, what goes on with payday loans. Illegal. Yeah. But it came and it helped some people. But they need to take, because what they do to people ultimately is cruel and inhumane, and there are no protections. And by the way, during the whole pandemic, not one of those creditors, not one congressperson got any of those guys sanctioned to not go after people who had debts during the pandemic. Do you know that? If the loan was not a federal one, they did nothing. None of them, including Joe Biden. None of them. I mean, you know, seriously, that was a big hit. So for me, they're not living in the real world, and we need to have real conversations about it. And the media needs to give real people more time to talk about it. Right. And expose people to the reality.
Someone is saying here, Jill, you're right. Your cousins have degrees that they were unable to find jobs when the bottom fell out in 2007.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Crazy.
And you know, the getting back to this part with Kamala is that should be the discussion, not around what she's doing or saying per se, but how come the system as a whole is like this? How do we fix, rather than saying, oh, she said this and this and this, I don't see AOC offering a solution.
No.
We need solutions to the problem. If you have solutions, give solutions, but you're going to stand firm on what she said, as opposed when she's trying to meet and have. See, I told you guys. She's trying to meet. I told you.
You got to go for another fire alarm.
Yeah.
You got to check and see.
I know.
You got to check. Go. No problem. Well, we'll continue. Hopefully, we'll be back in a few moments. Okay. All right. No problem. Wow. Yeah.
She keeps having fire alarms in her house.
What gets crazy? Last week, I got kicked out for a number of moments. Now we got fire. They're trying to take us down.
Mercury's in retrograde. Yeah, I think they did. They suddenly went, oh yeah.
So what do you recommend for Kamala?
Stay the course, stay strong, tough. I know she can do it. Maybe she might have to become more stern. I know she's charming and she's pleasant, and sometimes, she's giggling over things that, maybe it's a nervous laugh, or maybe it worked for her before, but she's going to now have to be a little more stern, I believe.
It sounds like what you're saying is you're repeating with a lot of the top people in the Democratic Party. They got to toughen up.
They do. It really is like she has to. I love this Eric Swalwell kid, young man.
Yes.
He comes back, like he'll throw the whole kitchen sink at them. He knows how to spar. He knows very well, which is why they come very hard for him. Kamala has to know how to spar too, or get somebody to do it for her. Either she gets a different spokesperson or somebody. Go high, don't go low. This is politics. This is not a beauty pageant. This is not high school. This is politics, and these people are out for your job and your neck. Kamala has to perhaps be a little more stern. I mean, it just, as she goes on, she'll get it. She'll toughen up and maybe navigate her way through what the Biden administration may be allowing her to say and to do. I don't know. Maybe there are some restrictions.
I know I know. It sounds like what you're trying to provide us was the famous Michelle Obama line: "When they go low, we go high."
Right. Well, that didn't help us, did it? because a lot of people stayed high, and I'll be damned if they didn't like yank down, like, no, you're not. They pulled you down, you know, like a balloon flying. They just yanked people down took them down, took them out. And that was all strategy. And, you know, it's important to, it just has to be done. We have to be clever about how we go after them. And, but AOC and just throwing out these things about everybody from Guatemala should come. It's like, no. That's like inviting people over to your house for a barbecue and you know everybody's just still fighting. Yeah, sure, come on. No, it's nothing in the background. They'll be fine by the time you get here. It's a little bit ridiculous. We couldn't even manage the ones that came.
Yeah.
And we need to work. And I believe her role is to work with these countries to find out what they need and the programs necessary. Because let's be honest, those countries aren't stupid either. They're like, go. Because they know ultimately we couldn't handle the load and they're going to want a little bit of something. That's just how it goes.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, it's been a challenge that many administrations have never been able to handle.
No.
Some people I see in the press, some people saying Joe just gave Kamala like the impossible job that he didn't want to do himself.
Yeah, it's possible, but you know, he gave it to her because both of her parents were immigrants who came here, and you know that whole thing. But where they're making a mistake is it's you're dealing with people who didn't come from India, who have like 195 IQ and are going to MIT, and you don't have Jamaican men who have 195 IQ coming from Jamaica and get accepted to come to this country. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with, no offense, but you're dealing with people who are walking thousands of miles and potentially compromised or don't have their papers, all of that. We have agricultural deals with these countries that allow and permit them to come in temporarily to work and to leave. Those things do exist. But I also feel that the information given in these countries, we have to be very clear, Homeland Security, about what they know they can apply for and what their contribution will be. Because people might have a lot of different qualifications to come and be of great asset to this country. And unfortunately, you know, the crime, we have our own crime. The crime has gone up. It's treacherous. You can't even wake up in America without hearing about a mass shooting somewhere. So for me, I'm all about putting the brakes on, turning off those people's stuff at the DOJ. No computers for a week. Y'all gonna sit your desks from 9 to 6 while I figure out who the hell each one of you are, and find my mole. And then immigration, y'all got to chill. Here's some sandwiches and some, you know, Fruit Loops. Take it or leave it at the moment.
Sandwiches and fruit. What a combo.
Because I'd have to just collect myself. You know, I think that it's great that Joe put people in all these positions, but they can't be so siloed that they don't cross communicate with each other. Because the problem is not just one sector. It's all layered over top of each other. All of it.
All interconnected.
All of it.
All interconnected. Definitely. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, people, yes. Most of the time you'll see Jill, Aisha K. Staggers, and myself. But if you're watching this live or on replay or listening, if you're listening to the replay, right? Aisha, where she lives, they've had the fire alarm went off. So that's why we don't have Aisha at the moment. We're hoping that we do get people back. Look at this. Real dango. Fruit Loops from Jilly.
I'm not trying to be rude, but
Fruit Loops from Jilly. All right. Next conversation piece. And obviously, because I'm living in this country, Jill and Aisha asked me to be in on this a little bit more than I'm usually in the stories. Yeah, Muslim family in London, Ontario. If you live in the United States, Ontario is a province comparable to what you have in the United States. And London is about an hour and a half drive from where I live, by the way. And I actually have cousins that live there and nephews and nieces. Yeah, this young man, teenage man, drove a car and ran down a family of 5. 4 of the members of the Muslim family are dead. The only surviving person is the 9-year-old son. Husband and wife are dead. Daughter is dead. Relative is dead. And then the son,
alive.
a 9-year-old son, is alive. And let's just call it 100 here. A lot of people around the world think that Canada is one of these places where we don't have racism. We don't have this. We don't have that. It exists here. The reason why you don't hear about it as much is because you hear about it so much in the United States because of the media stuff. And Real Jangles going, oh man, yeah, when Cinnamon Canal, when did it happen? It happened last week.
Mm-hmm.
Happened last week. And the crazy thing is the parents are in complete shock about this happening. But one of the crazy things that happened with this, the government of Ontario, Progressive Conservative Party, the opposition parties were trying to get a bill passed to condemn Islamophobia, and the Progressive Conservative Party would not do it.
Right.
That's messed up. That's really messed up.
Because white aligns with white no matter what boundary of the country. You know, we also don't know about the racism in Canada, or haven't. Fortunately, you have your shows about Black people in Canada. But I got to be honest with you, what TV shows have been imported here that show Black Canadians? We have your singers and your musicians, but people forget that Drake is Canadian. Few people are, you know, and it's like it's becoming more visible.
Well, look, the last few weeks have not, Canada's not looked pretty. Had this incident
with the Indigenous people, yeah,
and that story is going to be far from over.
Yeah,
not only in this country, but in the United States with the residential schools.
Absolutely. You know, they asked somebody a question here. Do you think that America will dive into looking to track down what happened at their Indigenous foster homes and adoption places? And somebody said no. America does not want to dig into that too, because we've had some mighty huge atrocities as well, and we continue to. You know, it's much harder for people to change, and that's just on general. So imagine what you're asking of a racist and racist people. If people won't even change, you know, their addiction to whatever they're into, it's very difficult just for the average person on a whole to change. So is it unrealistic? Yeah, it is a bit unrealistic to. Is it even crazier to try to jump through hoops when I really don't believe that most people change? They don't. They're sober for a minute and then they fall off the wagon again. It's the same with racism.
No, and it's really saddened many people in this country. And interesting, Real Django, critical race theory, you're reading our alleged minds. We're going to be coming up to that in a few moments.
Right.
Yes, I do live in Canada, and on the whole, it's not a bad country, but
I love
it. But we have our challenges too. Interesting. Earlier on today, I was having a long conversation with a gentleman, a Black gentleman who grew up in Montreal, and he shared and he remembered something when he was 7 years old. Where was it? It was in grade seven, and when he's in a history class, and he had to read a passage from a history book, and that had the N word, and he had to read that out in grade 7, and he still remembers that. The man is in his 50s now.
Wow.
He still remembers that.
Yes.
So we do have it here. We do have it here. And, you know, Islamic sisters and brothers, Indigenous sisters and brothers, it exists
Well,
here.
we're so messed up here, Dr. Vibe, that we actually have people who we've been corralled and so oppressed that, we've actually had to sit through Ice Cube trying to tell us that the N-word is an affectionate term. It's like we browbeat our own as well. We browbeat them, we beat them down. And you're going to say that's a loving and affectionate word. Well, let's change that, because that is not, that's like being with a dude who beats you and says, but I love you. And it's like you're going, no slap and stroke. Stop it. This is not what we do. This is not love. Let me show you love.
Yep. Real dango, man, oh man. Cinema Canela. Humanity needs to start all over again. Thanks, Doc. And then Real Dango says, yes, it sure does. Well, I'm getting to the point in my journey, folks. I say this more. The more I know, the less I understand.
Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen with the guy who they arrested?
He is. They did have his first trial hearing. That's going to be very, very interesting with that trial, because he who knows? He'll probably get a life sentence. Because I don't think we do the death penalty here.
Right.
But see, again, my concern, and people, you can come at me, within a few days, it's all be forgotten.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the way human nature is. On to the next thing. And if you keep enough sensational, traumatic stuff going on, then as long as it's more trauma, people don't even realize what an idyllic life would be, or utopia. They don't even thirst for it anymore, because they know it's an impossibility.
This is a young person deliberately driving a truck. Deliberately.
Mental, completely, his hatred.
Running down a family. Deliberately, folks. Sad.
And people wonder why I think people should have to wear chips. I think that people have given up to the point where they've made it where they need to be policed. People cannot be trusted.
I think, and it goes to Jill. Now, again, I haven't gone deep enough, but what kind of media was this young man watching? All those sort of things. They don't
want to put restrictions on the computer or the internet, and they need to. He was radicalized, or maybe it was from his house. I don't know. Family members, we say all sorts of stuff. You just never know who's on the other side listening, right? You don't know how they're taking it.
No.
But definitely they're finding loser friends online, and they're finding a sympathetic ear. And we do know that Russia has had many campaigns going on, and they played the long game, not just with all of North America, because North America was no friend to Russia either at many times.
Yeah, just really sad story. And it was interesting. I was watching some television coverage of a service in a mosque, and this person says, yeah, you're a media person. They were actually doing reporting about the incident inside a mosque while this vigil was going on. And the person asked me, you know what? I don't think that's good.
No.
And I said, I somewhat agree on that. Let them have their service. But yeah,
I agree. How macabre is that?
They were reporting while it was actually going on, and people were watching this live on replay. What do you think? Do you think that was good media practice? There they are in a mosque, members of the Islamic community, praying and giving solace to these 4 family members, plus the young boy who's still alive.
Who's an orphan, basically.
Who's an orphan now. And there is and the broadcast was the major news broadcast of the CBC called The National. And it was going on right there. And I'm going, I don't know about that. But obviously they must have let them. Cinema Canela goes, Not at all. Yeah, I don't know if that was proper media taste.
I don't think it was, but the media doesn't have any taste, and people certainly don't have any manners anymore. They really don't. And they haven't respected Islam anyway, on any level. Their religion, they give us the platitudes like they're nice people, they're not all blah, blah, blah. You know, it's really unfortunate, the delusion. They're all culpable, you know, the media.
It's interesting you say that.
They're all culpable.
One of my longtime supporters, a gentleman named Victory Unlimited, you always used to say the illusion of inclusion.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And then they get outraged when there are things that happen in their community. Yeah.
So Cinema Canal asks, who gave permission to tape that? I would believe that the mosque gave them permission to broadcast.
Because the mosque is there. Sorry, but to cut you off, but you've got to remember, they're always under the gun to humanize themselves, to try to get people to show compassion. But it doesn't do anything. It's only hardened their hearts more. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if in people's Christianity, there was a real twist at the end, a plot twist at the end, and everybody's going up to the pearly gates and they finally discover that Islam was the chosen one? Wouldn't it be really funny? Because they've been persecuted a hell of a lot. The Christians have always seemed to be pretty much on top of like destroying people, interrogating them, burning them, I mean, when you put that into context too, it's like, yo, what the hell?
Yeah, Cinema Canal is going true. Islam has not been respected in the media.
It hasn't. It isn't. It just isn't. And, you know, that comes on the heels of what was he watching? What's been going on with Palestine? All the arguments back and forth about Israel, back and forth, people having to defend against just saying that they think some people should be treated in a humane way. And you get slaughtered online for, oh, you're anti-Semitic, you're this and that. No. That is not how this is going to work anymore. And people actually don't get GAF about it anymore. You can call people all you want. They might be sitting there. They might be Jewish themselves. People do have a problem with what they're seeing, the way Israel is gunning down people and Palestinians are throwing rocks or whatever they're doing, and Hamas and all that. Ain't nobody checking for that at the moment. We've got people who are completely under siege. I just don't see why we have to keep persecuting these people. Everybody has a little lumps in their sugar, no matter what group you are in. But True. You don't put the whole group in there based upon some bad people. But I don't know. Just interestingly, it's just very bad. Right. This poor kid's life was just changed like that. God bless that kid at 9.
Well, let's go to our last conversation piece. This episode's cockroach. Florida for banning its schools for teaching critical race theory. Oh boy.
I know. DeSantis has got to go, and I think he will go. I actually think he will be going. I admire Val Demings for wanting to run and be senator in Florida, because she will probably be giving him hell if he stays in. But I think DeSantis is going to go. But yeah, the critical race theory, it's a whole thing that I don't even think people know what it is.
Most people don't, and most people have the wrong conception. And we've got Aisha back.
Yay!
She hosed down the building, took off her fire suit, and
they're like,
back with it.
They were just so not having it. The firemen didn't even show up in their gear. They came in their t-shirts and pants and stuff.
Oh my god!
Is it someone's house? Just like,
I have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm. So critical race theory.
Yeah.
That's
that's your Real Django. Let me just Real Django saying they've been banning it down here in Georgia, and Cindy Canela going only in Florida, and then, oh God, hope Jesus hear you. You hear DeSantis needs to go.
He is. I hear Jesus is getting the band back together, and they all want to fix this shit.
Well, you know what? Ban things that you know what they mean. You know what I mean? It's like discussing critical race theory then means that you can't even talk about how the civil rights movement evolved. You can't talk about the underlying conditions of poverty. You can't talk about the underlying conditions that you can't talk about intersectionality at all.
But Aisha, can I just say one thing? I don't think they ever really talked about it that much anyway. I mean, but I do like the fact that they're bringing it up, because the reality is the more you tell somebody they can't have something is the more they go out to try to find it. Even their little white kids are going to go and they're like looking it up because they want to know. The more you do it,
is that if a person mentions, okay, here are some of the key factors that contribute to poverty in the United States, and race is one of them, systemic racism. You cannot say that as a teacher. Teachers who say that will be getting fired.
Right.
They'll be getting pink slips. So you know, it's like they're putting a stranglehold on teachers teaching the truth.
Right.
And so we're going to have this, you know, soon enough, we're going to have this made up version of American history that's going to read more like, you know, Brothers Grimm than it is.
Well, maybe we should push back and make it where history isn't a requirement to get out of school. And make it where it's we might have to push back and be like, well, then that should be an optional course if you want to take it, because it's bullshit anyway. It's a bunch of lies. So why should you even have that as a requirement to get your little high school diploma? We need to push back that we don't want that.
Yeah.
We're going to cut history. You can take PE, cut it. You know what I'm saying?
Anything short of saying that white people are great is going to be banned eventually.
And that should be optional for me to go and have to hear.
Yeah.
As a student, I don't want to hear that. You know, that's not the movie I want to see. So get me another class. And maybe kids need to have more electives, and history doesn't need to be it then if that's what it is. Maybe it's something optional. And maybe there's got to be a better solution, because there's always a way to get our stuff heard. And that's kind of, you know, I don't know.
Most of the people making decisions about education are not people who are in education.
I don't know. Maybe we should get Beyonce to teach it with a bunch of professors and do a whole weekend summit where she's talking about it. People that look at young and have, maybe the Hollywood should contribute and start pitching in on how to. And if the kids want to watch it or want to participate, let them learn about it. But fuck them if they want to do that. Sorry. But so what? There's still another way to get the message out. It's horrible. Don't get me wrong.
It is.
But they're going to do, racists are going to racist all day long. And they just like, you know, it's like they're going to puncture holes in your tire. They're going to do this. You carry a spare set of tires. You got a bicycle in the back of the trunk. Take it out and you ride your bike. You got to just always be like one step ahead. Y'all ain't going to let us do it. Well, we're going to get a bunch of people and we're going to have a concert about critical race theory. And we're going to travel and we're going to go from city to city. And we've got all sorts of people who are going to talk about it. White, black, brown, yellow, all of them.
Well, this is what a friend of mine said to me back in the early 2000s about what we lost when our schools were segregated, is that we had black teachers, we had black principals, black faculty, and they were able to teach these kinds of things without people looking over their shoulders all the time about what they were teaching to black children. And now let's be clear, not teaching the things that people need to know doesn't just hurt black children and brown children. It hurts white children too, because you grow up, you end up teaching a legacy of systemic racists, people who will people who will, protect that system.
Well, you've got to remember, we entered schools with the daughters of not of the American Revolution. They were the other ones who were controlling the South, the Confederacy, and what was being taught in school. And we segregated in those things. So of course, we were never, our curriculum was never put into their curriculum, that things that, and to be fair, I'm not so sure that our teachings were coming from even our own schools as much as our teachings were coming from our own ancestors or grandmothers or aunts. I don't ever believe that those kind of conversations were something that Black people did privately with their own.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I mean, I don't know how to say it. I think it's a fight that needed to be taken up ages ago, because I never had it in school. I just knew, I didn't.
Well, my mother went to segregated school in the South, like fully segregated. And my aunt taught in segregated schools. My great aunt taught in segregated schools because she started teaching in 1958. So she taught in segregated schools in South Carolina up until early 70s, when they finally did their full integration. And she always says the difference between then and now is that, when she was able to teach her kids, she had much more flexibility in the segregated schools than she had in the integrated schools, because in the segregated schools, you knew the families, you knew the parents, you went to church with them, you sat in church with them, they lived in your neighborhood, and then the parents trusted the teachers more with knowledge that they were giving them. What we have now, and then you also have educators making the curriculum, and the curriculum, like Black teachers could teach Black history and things like that to Black students. Whereas now you have people who are in charge of designing curriculum who aren't educators, they're legislators.
Right.
That's where the problem comes in.
But that's in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think legislators have their hands in too much.
I just think that segregation had to take place, because if we all didn't integrate, then we'd be even further behind.
Oh no, it had to take place.
Very important
thing. One of the things that we lost with our schools.
We never had it. We never had it. I went to school in the 60s. We never freaking had it in Ohio. We didn't have it. They taught you about Martin Luther King. They talked to you about, the Rosa Parks, all of that, but no. And also, who wasn't paying attention to history? No, sorry.
See, we didn't even, even coming up when I was growing up, we didn't even get that part of it until high school. So in middle school, only person we ever heard about was Martin Luther King, and we heard about Frederick Douglass. And the only reason I say we heard about Frederick Douglass is because back in the day, before they had President's Day, they used to have George Washington Day, and they had Abraham Lincoln Day. And we used to get off the actual entire week for vacation because there's also a Frederick Douglass Day thrown in there somewhere.
Right. I don't know. I think I recall us talking about it in middle school, and of course high school. But to be honest, I think there's just way too much school conversation. I frankly don't even really remember school other than my friends, high school and stuff. And of course, Kent State, I remember my cousin's involvement with the Panthers or with all of that. And that's fine. But I don't think there was ever any critical race theory ever in this country. There's never been, it's never even, because first of all, the jargon, and we got to really stop with the jargon, because jargon is so, it excludes people. We got to be more inclusive with everything. And in fact, jargon is created to exclude people, by the way. And I find we're a very jargon cool society. Everything has to have some jargon. That is like how you block people out of a meeting, how you sit and new people come along. You can shut them down if you only speak jargon. And it's so I feel with critical race theory, that's the buzzword this week. But the onus really is for people to teach their kids about it.
I mean,
and why am I going to pay attention? It's really sad that most American kids didn't even know about concentration camps.
Yeah.
Anne Frank. I mean, these white kids, black kids, all of them are as dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to stuff like that. All of them. That's why you see a few of them thinking everything's a conspiracy. That didn't happen. Your children are stupid, and they're stupid. And I knew this when I took my daughter out of American schools and sent her to school in England. Now, another colonialist school, but it's up to the parents to be involved. And that is another discussion. We have had some lazy parenting.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of it. And if your kids don't know about certain things, and I know with mixed race parents, they start doing some real crazy stuff with their kids. Everybody's happy and in love and everybody, but I've actually seen some white women who are more involved in the Black experience than actual Black women raising their children, which is very strange.
I come from a family of educators. So my great aunt was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. She's retired. My youngest sister is a curriculum coordinator. Sister is a professor, and I used to be a professor. So we come from this long family of educators. And so it's always been different for us. What I can say is this, that critical race theory, I knew about it 20 some odd years ago when I first started graduate school. And it's one of those terms like Afrocentrism and things like that. Those terms are there for one specific reason. So social scientists can quantify qualitative data. That's what people have to come to understand about critical race theory, is that it's a theory that is used so that we can quantify qualitative data. And what do I mean by qualitative data? I mean, how are we able to measure systemic racism and its effects its effect on people of color, its effect on poverty, its effect on housing, its effect on this. Right. And you have to have an underlying theory. What white people have taken it to mean is that it's a catch-all term for racism. So you can't teach the history of racism, and it's just wrong. It's just
wrong. We've got to stop responding to what white people are trying to create as the narrative. We know what it is, and we got to stop these long-winded conversations and just do it. Yeah. And just have the conversations. I think that when you get caught up on the jargon, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have a conversation with your students.
Yeah.
Just have the damn conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just really be very clear. I guess there's no test for it, but I think people also want to see, like, when are we not going to have systemic racism? What have you quantified so far? And because on one hand, we go and we unearth everything we've learned. And now people, I mean, this is really what's happened, is we have unearthed everything that maybe everybody's learned. This one was a liar. This one was this president, everything. You've taken away life jackets that people held on to, and they're standing there like going, what the fuck is real anymore?
But what they're not
happened.
But what they're not understanding is that critical race theory can be applied to so many other things. For example, I used it in my master's thesis when I was looking at the mate selection preferences of Black men 18 to 25. That's what I used it for. Okay. It wasn't about anything else, just the mate selection.
When looking at the what?
Mate selection preferences.
Okay. But then when you start having these discussions, you have to put some boundaries on it, because Jimmy the Greek got fired for even surmising that Black people were just bred to be, because of their days in the plantation, that they were faster and they were bred in a certain way. And he wasn't all that wrong. I mean, we do know now that there were slave owners who went, I'm going to take the best of the best and put this one with that one. But see, if you had a white person going and saying on critical race theory, I'm looking at the mating selection of the Black people, we'd be dragging them all the way up and down the road. We aren't really creating safe space either
But there have been so many
topics.
who haven't been criticized. I mean, because the honest truth is there's a book that I used that came from a white man who did it, and he's like praises the person who looks at mate selection preferences among Black people. So it was in, again, the reason
But could he do it today? Could he say it today on Twitter?
That I don't know, but I'll tell you this, but probably not. But I'll tell you this. The reason that I use the term mate selection preferences is because, again, it's another research term. Critical race theory is for research. It's for researchers. It's not for laymen.
And we are trying to get this across to people who didn't even believe the science of COVID. Come on. Like, why do we have to have this battle? There are researchers who have gone up and down talking about how a virus works.
Right.
These are the people in the classes that didn't learn anything, or their religion was precluding them from their giving them prejudices about things, the devil's work. These are the ancestors of witch burners and all that. This is what stuff chatter that goes on in their house, what they're stimulated with. Is it now the onus of all of us to try to redirect? We got to find better ways to just get it done. I don't think they'll love to do critical race theory. It's offered to kids. I can't imagine them not wanting to be a part of it. It's like sociology.
Yeah,
it's
that's
studying,
exactly
right? But that's actually not everybody's down for sociology, breaking things down, just even on a general thing, just without race being involved, But I think that Hollywood films and people and musicians, they could have played a better role in getting information across and portrayals, and script writers not stretching the truth. And now there are symposiums, and there's so much a way to create education online, and you can have the attendance. We don't need to be belaboring this with that dumb Louis Gohmert talking about it. He's about as dumb as a can sitting on the ground.
Like my grandmother says, as dumb as a box of rocks.
He is, So I get you on that, but you're a highly intelligent person, Aisha, and just your family's a bunch of, I always say this, you're all teachers, academia and everything. But then there's just, the rest of us who don't have it. If I try to roll up talking about some of the stuff you do, some of the people out, Jill, sit down. Like, oh, come on. Damn, why you always got to be so serious?
That's the thing, is that critical race theory should not be discussed as something that's just a layman's kind of thing, because it's not. It's an academic term. It's academic. And so you took people who heard it mentioned once.
But I can hear my grandfather going, systemic. Shit, I could tell you what systemic. I don't need a class to tell you what it's about. I can hear them all. They're all like going right now. They're all like, I don't need a class to tell me about no. Damn it. I grew up in Arkansas. Exactly. So that's the other thing. I mean, maybe it's a little hoity-toity for some of my relatives, but on the other hand, I don't even know if it's just that. It's like offering it in such a way. I think the 1619 Project, which is not critical race theory, but it sort of jumped off this whole thing of, how they all want to keep pigeonholing us.
And that's what it is. And that's what it is. The 1619 Project, they didn't know, they don't know what to call it.
I know.
In essence, when it's history. Period. They wanted to call it something other than history, so they came up with critical race theory.
But the thing is, we've unearthed their ancestors, who they praised so highly, were they about as respectable as a dingleberry.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, taking away somebody's, well, I used to be in the Daughters of the American Revolution, and my father was on the Confederate statue over at the such and such, and you're like, he was a plantation owner, girl, and he was raping slaves every day. And that just like, it does get in their psyche. In fact, it has. We can see that. Otherwise, they wouldn't act like the cockroaches they are, because they try to cover up the tracks. They are trying to cover up the tracks of the dirt their ancestors did, and they can't accept it. And this is why a situation like Germany, what happened with Hitler and all of that, you got to give the country 100 like standing applause for being a country strong enough, brave enough, and honest enough with itself to look at what it did.
Yeah,
and to go, we're going to change it. And yes, I know you all had freedom of speech, but that didn't work for us so well that first time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of hate speech. You know, it took America how many years to come up with hate speech? I mean, give me a break.
And you know, not even
and how long for guns and everything else. So for me, it's like when we go back to this country is having a very hard time to look at herself in the mirror, child.
All
she
right.
Can't see it.
On that note, we're going to end off an epic conversation between both ladies. We had fire alarms.
I know.
We had you know,
those fire marshals came up there. They were just like,
we had dingleberries. I mean, yes, we had dingleberries. Yes, real dango. Ooh, dingleberries. And real dango says critical race theory in college. He said he'd teach it.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
So there we go. So folks, this is what you miss if you don't catch it. The ladies are always on fire. Most Saturday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Aisha and Jill drop knowledge bombs as per usual. Before they leave, they'll tell you how you can get in touch with them as long as you behave yourself. Because if they don't, they're going to block you. So first up, Jill Jones.
I'm at Jill D. Jones on Twitter. And you can find me there.
Nice and easy. And then next up, Aisha K.
At Aisha Staggers on Twitter.
There you go. And they won't get banned like certain former presidents. Next up, so myself, best place you can get a hold of me is go to my website. That'll give you all the information you need in regards to getting in touch with me, and also replays of all the great conversations these ladies have done over the years. Actually, I got to take a check. We've got to do an anniversary show soon. We got to be coming to some sort of milestone, so we need to do an anniversary show coming up. Also, want to thank, and people are chiming in here, Cinema saying, Real Django saying thumbs up. Cinema saying thank you, Dr. Vibe, Jill and Aisha. We thank you back. Thank you so much. So if you want to get a hold of me, best place, the drvibeshow.com. As always, I end off my conversations like this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. They aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourself grace. Catch us again next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern time for another episode of, what do they call this thing? Stagger State of Things with special guest Jill Jones. And again, we're encouraging people to give us names we're wanting to get a new name for the show. So please tell us. Actually, there's some people that have sent some stuff, and I have to share it with Aisha and Jill so they can give their feedback. But we definitely in the next few weeks want to make a big announcement with a big show name change for everybody. So God bless, peace to all, keep the faith, and walk good. Bye-bye, everybody.